Adapted from archaic translation by W.H.D. Rouse. Jataka number 447. Mahā-Dhamma-Pāla-Jātaka. What custom is it, etc. This story the master told, after his first visit to Kapilapura, while he lodged in his father's banyan grove, about the king, his father's refusal to believe. At the time, they say that the great king Shuddhodana, having given a meal of rice porridge at his own living to the Buddha at the head of 20,000 brethren, during the meal talked pleasantly to him, saying, "Sir, at the time of your striving, came some deities to me, and poised in the air, said, 'Your son, Prince Siddhartha, has died of starvation.' And the master replied, 'Did you believe it, great king?' 'Sir, I did not believe it. Even when the deities came hovering in the air, and told me this, I refused to believe it, saying that there was no death for my son until he had obtained Buddhahood at the foot of the Bo tree.' Said the master, 'Great king, long ago in the time of the great Dharmapala, even when a world-famed teacher said, "Your son is dead, these are his bones," you refused to believe, answering, "In our family, they never die young. Then why should you believe now?" And at his father's request, the master told a tale of long ago. Once upon a time, when Brahmadatta was king of Benares, there was in the kingdom of Kasi a village named Dharmapala, and it took that name because the family of one Dharmapala lived there. From his keeping the 10 paths of virtue, this Brahmin was known where he lived as Dharmapala, or the lawkeeper. In his household, even the servants gave alms, and observed virtue, and kept the holy day. At that time the Bodhisattva came to life in that household, and to him they gave the name of Dharmapala Kumara, or lawkeeper the younger. So soon as he came of age, his father gave him 1,000 pieces, and sent him to study at Taxila. There he went, and studied with a world-famed teacher, and became the chief pupil in a company of 500 youths. Just then died the eldest son of the teacher. And the teacher, surrounded by his pupils, in the midst of his friends and family, weeping did the boy's funeral rites in the cemetery. Then the teacher with his company of family, and all his pupils, were weeping and wailing, but Dharmapala only neither wept nor wailed. When afterwards the 500 youths had returned from the cemetery, they sat down in their teacher's presence, and said, "Ah, so fine a boy, so good, a tender child, to be cut off in his tender age and parted from father and mother." Dharmapala replied, "Tender indeed, as you say. Well, why did he die at a tender age? It is not right that children of tender age should die." Then they said to him, "Why, sir, do you not know that such persons are but mortal?" "I know it. But in tender years they die not. People die when they are grown old. Then are not all worldly things transitory and unreal? Transitory they are, it is true. But in the days of youth creatures do not die. It is only when they are grown old that they die." "Oh, is that the custom of your family?" "Yes, that is the custom in my family." The lads told this conversation to their teacher. He sent for Dharmapala, and asked him, "Is it true, Dharmapala, my son, that in your family they do not die young?" "Yes, teacher," said he, "it is true." On hearing this, the teacher thought, "This is a most marvelous thing he says. I will make a journey to his father, and ask him about it. And if it be true, I will live according to his rule of right." So when he had finished for his son all that should be done, after lapse of 7 or 8 days he sent for Dharmapala, and said, "My son, I am going away from home. While I am away, you are to instruct these my pupils." So saying, he procured the bones of a wild goat, washed them and scented them, and put them in a bag. Then taking with him a little page boy, he left Taxila, and in course of time arrived at that village. There he inquired his way to Mahā-Dhamma-Pāla's house, and stopped at the door. The first servant of the Brahmin who saw him, whoever it was, took the sunshade from his hand, and took his shoes, and took the bag from the servant. He asked them to tell the boy's father. Here was the teacher of his son Dharmapala the younger, standing at the door. "Good," said the servants, and summoned the father to him. Quickly he came to the threshold, and "Come in," said he, leading the way into his house. Seating the visitor upon a couch, he did a host's duty by washing his feet, and so on. When the teacher had eaten food, and they sat down for a kindly talk together, said he, "Brahman, your son young Dharmapala, when full of wisdom, and a perfect master of the 3 Vedas and the 18 accomplishments, by an unhappy chance has lost his life. All worldly things are transitory. Grieve not for him." The Brahman clapped his hands, and laughed loudly. "Why do you laugh, Brahman?" asked the other. "Because," said he, "it is not my son who is dead. It must be some other." "No, Brahman," was the answer, "your son is dead, and no other. Look on his bones, and believe." So saying, he unwrapped the bones. "These are your son's bones," said he. "A wild goat's bones, perhaps," said the other, "or a dog's. But my son is not dead. In our family for 7 generations no such thing has been, as a death in tender years. And you are speaking falsehood." Then they all clapped their hands, and laughed aloud. The teacher, when he saw this wonderful thing, was much pleased, and said, "Brahman, this custom in your family line cannot be without cause, that the young do not die. Why is it then that you do not die young?" And he asked his question by repeating the first stanza. "What custom is it, or what holy way? Of what good deed is this the fruit, I ask? Tell me, O Brahman, what the reason is. Why in your line the young die never, say? Then the Brahman, to explain what virtues had the result that in his family no one died young, repeated the following stanzas. "We walk in uprightness, we speak no lies. All foul and wicked sins we keep afar. We do avoid all things that evil are. Therefore in youth not one among us dies. We hear the deeds of foolish and of wise. Of what the foolish do no mind we do. The wise we follow, and the fools forsake. Therefore in youth not one among us dies. In gifts beforehand our contentment lies. Even while giving we are well content. Nor having given, do we then repent. Therefore in youth not one among us dies. Priests, Brahmins, pilgrims we satisfy. Beggars, and monks, and all who need. We give them drink, and hungry folk we feed. Therefore the young among us do not die. Wedded, for others' wives we do not sigh. But we are faithful to the marriage vow. And faithful are our wives to us, I think. Therefore the young among us do not die. The children that from these true wives are born, are wise abundantly, to learning bred. Versed in the Vedas, and all perfected. Therefore none dies of us while he is young. Each to do right for sake of heaven tries. So lives the father, and so lives the mother. So son and daughter, sister so and brother. Therefore no one of us when youthful dies. For sake of heaven our servants to apply. Their lives to goodness, men and the ladies all. Patrons, servants, each meanest captive. Therefore the young among us do not die. And lastly, by these 2 stanzas he stated the goodness of those who walk in righteousness. Righteousness saves him that to that is bent. Righteousness practiced well brings happiness. Them that do righteously this boon did bless. The righteous comes not into punishment. Righteousness saves the righteous, as a shade. Saves in the time of rain, the boy still lives. Goodness to Dharmapala safety gives. Some others' bones are these you have conveyed. On hearing this, the teacher replied, a happy journey is this journey of mine, fruitful, not without fruit. Then full of happiness, he begged pardon of Dharmapala's father, and added, I came here, and brought with me these wild goat's bones, on purpose to try you. Your son is safe and well. I request you to impart to me your rule of preserving life. Then the other wrote it upon a leaf. And after tarrying in that place some few days, he returned to Taxila, and having instructed Dharmapala in all branches of skill and learning, he dismissed him with a great troop of followers. When the master had thus gave discourse to the great king Shuddhodana, he explained the truths, and identified the birth. At that time, mother and father were the Maharaja's family, the teacher was Sariputra, the group of attendants was the Buddha's group of attendants, and I myself was the younger Dharmapala. Source adapted from archaic translation by W.H.D. Rouse. Jataka number 448. Kukkuṭa-Jātaka. Trust not in those, etc. This story the master told in the bamboo grove, on the subject of going about to kill. In the Hall of Truth, the brethren were discussing the evil nature of Devadatta. Why, sir, by bribing archers and others to the task, Devadatta is making an attempt to murder the Dasabala. The master, entering, inquired, What is this, brethren, that you speak of as you sit here together? They told him. Said he, It is not now the first time that he has tried to murder me, but it was the same before. And he told them a story of the past. Once upon a time there reigned in Kosambi a king named Kosambaka. At that time the bodhisattva became the offspring of a wild hen that lived in a grove of bamboo trees, and afterwards was the chief of a flock of several hundred birds in the forest. Not far off lived a falcon, which as he found opportunity caught the birds one by one and ate them, and in course of time he devoured all the others, and the bodhisattva was left alone. But he used all caution in seeking his food, and lived in a thick vegetation of bamboo. Here the falcon could not get at him, so he set about thinking by what trick he might entice him to capture. Then he descended on a branch hard by, and called out, Worthy bird, what makes you fear me? I am anxious to make friends with you. Now in such a place is food in plenty. Let us feed there together, and live like friends in company. No, good sir, replied the bodhisattva, between you and me no friendship can ever be. So go away. Good sir, for my former sins you cannot trust me now. But I promise that I will never do so again. No, I care not for such a friend. Go away, I say. Again for the third time the bodhisattva refused. With a creature of such qualities, said he, friendship there must never be. And he made the wide woods reverberate, the deities applauding as he uttered this discourse. Trust not in those whose words are lies, nor those who only know self-interest, nor who have sinned, nor who too pious show. Some men have nature like the cows, thirsty and full of greed. Have words in truth a friend to soothe, but never come to deed. These hold out dry and empty hands. The voice conceals their heart. From those who know not gratitude keep apart. Put not your trust in woman or in man of weak mind, nor such as having made a pact to break it are inclined. The man who walks in evil ways, to all things threatening death. Not firm, put no trust in him, like keenest sword in sheath. Some speak smooth words that come not from the heart, and try to please. With many a show of friendship feigned, put not your trust in these. When such an evil-minded man sees or food or gain, he works all ill, and go he will, but first will be your weakness." These 7 stanzas were repeated by the king of the birds. Then were the 4 stanzas following recited by the king of the faith, words inspired by a Buddha's insight. In friendly show full many a rival follows, his aid to give. As the bird left the falcon, so it was best bad men to leave. Who is not quick to recognize the meaning of events? Under his rival's control he goes, and afterward repents. Whosoever the meaning of events is quick to recognize. As from the falcon's toils the bird, so from his rivals he flies. From such inevitable and treacherous snare, deadly, set deep mid many a forest tree. As from the falcon far the bird did flee. The man of seeing eye afar should fare. And he again, after reciting these stanzas, called the falcon, and rebuked him, saying, "If you continue to live in this place, I shall know what to do." The falcon flew away from there and went to another place. The master, having ended this discourse, said, "Brethren, long ago as now Devadatta tried to compass my destruction, and then he identified the birth at that time. Devadatta was the falcon, and I was myself the bird.